John invited his new work colleague, Robert, over for dinner. As they reached the front door, John's wife rushed out, threw her arms around him, and gave him an enthusiastic kiss. Robert, wide-eyed, turned to John and asked, "Wow, how long have you two been married?" 24 years, John replied. "That's amazing," Robert said. "You must have such a strong marriage if your wife greets you like that after all these years." John chuckled and said, "Don't let the kiss fool you." Robert looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" John grinned and said, "She only does it to make the cat jealous." A man walked into a supermarket, unaware that his zipper was down. As he moved through the aisles, a female cashier noticed him and with a slight smirk said, "Your Barracks door is open." Confused, the man continued shopping, unsure of what she meant. As he was nearing the end of his shopping, another man approached him and said, "Your fly is open." Feeling embarrassed, the man quickly zipped up and finished his errands. At checkout, he purposely chose the same line as the cashier who had made the earlier comment. He decided to have a little fun. So when it was his turn, he jokingly asked, "So, when you saw my Barracks door open, was there a soldier standing at attention?" The cashier paused, then responded with a grin. "No, but I did see a retired soldier sitting on a couple of old duffel bags." The professor presented a large cage containing a male rat, which was positioned in the middle of the enclosure. Next, the professor placed a piece of cake on one side of the cage and a female rat on the other side. The male rat immediately ran toward the cake and began eating it. The professor then removed the cake and replaced it with a piece of bread. Once again, the male rat ran straight to the bread. This experiment continued, with the professor switching the food items after each trial. In every instance, the male rat focused solely on the food, never showing any interest in the female rat. The professor concluded, "This experiment demonstrates that food is the greatest source of strength and attraction." At this point, a student from the back of the room raised his hand and said, "Professor, why don't you try changing the female rat? This one might just be his wife." A blonde girl was going on her first date, and her grandmother gave her some advice. "The boy may try to kiss you. It will feel good. But don't do it. He may try to go up your skirt, but don't let him. He may try to take your clothes off, but don't do it. He may try to get on top of you, but don't do it. If you do any of these things, you'll disgrace your family." The girl said she understood and went on her date. The girl came home at about 11 p.m. and her grandmother was waiting for her and said, "Well, did you disgrace the family?" "No," said the girl. "Instead of letting him do those things to me, I did them to him, and now it's his family that's disgraced." A police officer pulled over a vehicle that had just driven through an intersection without slowing for the traffic light, which flashes red continually. The driver, blonde of course, explained, "But I didn't go through on the red, I went through on the black." A single man decided that life would be more exciting with a pet. He went to the pet store and told the owner he wanted something unique. After some discussion, he settled on a talking centipede, which came in a small white box that served as its home. Once home, the man decided to start their friendship by taking the centipede to church. He knocked gently on the box and asked, "Would you like to go to church with me today? It'll be fun." Silence. No response. A little puzzled, he waited a moment, then tried again. "How about coming to church with me? You'll be blessed." Still nothing. Now slightly frustrated, He waited a few more minutes before giving it one final try. This time, he leaned close to the box and shouted, "Hey, do you want to go to church with me or not?" Finally, a tiny, exasperated voice came from inside the box. "For the love of God, I heard you the first time. I'm putting my shoes on." An old man and an old woman are sitting side by side in their rocking chairs. The old woman is quietly embroidering, and the old man is engrossed in his newspaper. After a moment, she looks at him with a wistful smile and says, "Honey, you don't sit close to me like you used to." Hearing this, the old man sets down his paper and scoots his chair closer to hers. She then adds, "And honey, you don't put your arm around me anymore." Without hesitation, he gently wraps his arm around her. A playful glint appears in her eyes as she says, "Honey, you don't nibble on my ear anymore." Suddenly, the old man gets up and starts walking away. Surprised, she calls out, "Honey, where are you going?" He turns back with a grin and says, "Just going to get my teeth." Two men were having an excruciatingly slow round of golf. The two women playing ahead of them seemed to hit every sand trap, water hazard, and rough on the course. To make matters worse, they didn't follow a proper golf etiquette and let the men play through. After 2 hours of frustration, one man said, "I've had enough. I'm going to ask them to let us play through." He started walking towards the women, but halfway there, he stopped, turned around, and came back. Looking embarrassed, he said, "I can't do it. One of those women is my wife, and the other is my mistress. Maybe you should go instead." The second man nodded and began walking towards the women. But just like his friend, he stopped halfway, turned around, and walked back. With a sheepish grin, he said, "Small world." A husband and wife were arguing over who should brew the coffee each morning. The wife said, "You should do it because you wake up first. That way, we don't have to wait for coffee." The husband replied, "Well, you're in charge of the cooking, so brewing coffee should be your job. I don't mind waiting." The wife, not missing a beat, said, "No, it's your responsibility. And besides, it says in the Bible that the man should make the coffee." The husband raised an eyebrow. "Really? I don't believe that. Show me where it says that." Smiling, the wife grabbed the Bible, flipped it open, and pointed to the top of several pages. "There," she said triumphantly. "Hebrews." A blond man walked into the doctor's office, looking a little concerned but still cheerful. The doctor ran a few tests and then sat him down. "Doctor, well, I have some bad news. One of your kidneys has failed." The blonde blinked, then suddenly burst out laughing. Without warning, he playfully smacked the doctor on the arm. "Blonde, you've got to be kidding me. My kidney failed? That's impossible. Hey, doctor, I'm serious. Why don't you believe me?" Blonde, still chuckling. "Because my kidney never went to school, doc, so how the heck could it fail?" Little Johnny had failed his law exam and decided to strike a deal with the professor. Johnny, "Sir, do you claim to know everything about law?" Professor, "Of course." Johnny, "All right then, if you can answer my question, I'll accept my grade. But if you can't, you'll have to give me an A." Intrigued, the professor agreed. Johnny then asked, "What is legal but not logical, logical but not legal, and neither legal nor logical?" The professor thought long and hard, but no answer came to him. After hours of pondering, he admitted defeat and reluctantly gave Johnny an A. The next day, determined to solve the puzzle, the professor posed the same question to his class. To his astonishment, every student raised their hand. He called on one of them and repeated the question. The student replied, "Sir, You're 65 years old and married to a 28-year-old woman. That's legal, but not logical. Your wife is having an affair with a 23-year-old man. That's logical, but not legal. And finally, you've given your wife's boyfriend an A after he failed his exam. That's neither legal nor logical. The professor fainted on the spot. A young man named John received a parrot as a gift. This parrot, however, was no ordinary bird. It had a foul attitude and an even fouler mouth. Every word it squawked was rude, obnoxious, and peppered with profanity. John, determined to reform the bird, tried everything. He spoke to it in calm, polite tones, played soothing music, and spent countless hours encouraging better behavior. But nothing worked. One day, after yet another barrage of rude remarks, John finally lost his patience. He yelled at the parrot, but the bird only yelled back, even louder and nastier. Frustrated, John grabbed the parrot and gave it a shake. This only made things worse. The parrot grew angrier and even more offensive. At his wit's end, John decided to try something drastic. He opened the freezer, placed the squawking parrot inside, and shut the door. For the first few moments, the parrot squawked, kicked, and screamed in protest. Then suddenly, there was silence. Not a sound came from the freezer for over a minute. Worried he might have hurt the bird, John quickly opened the door. The parrot stepped out onto John's arm, calm and composed. "I believe I may have offended you with my language and actions," the parrot said with surprising sincerity. "I am deeply sorry for my behavior and assure you I will make every effort to be polite and respectful from now on." John was stunned. He couldn't believe the transformation. As he opened his mouth to ask what had caused such a dramatic change, the parrot leaned in and softly added, "By the way, may I ask what the turkey did?" Judge, this case is exhausting. Both of you have endless complaints. Tell me, where did it all go wrong? The wife hesitated for a moment before replying softly, "I guess." "It all started when the communication between us just stopped. We weren't connecting anymore." The judge nodded. "Communication is important. Now, let me ask something personal. When you were in bed and having a great time, did you ever look at his face?" The wife, blushing, chuckled nervously. "Once I did, Judge." "And what happened?" Wife, "He was furious." Judge, "Why on earth would he be mad?" Wife, "Because he was watching me from the window." One day, my daughter asked, "Mom, do you have a baby picture of yourself? I need it for a school project." Without thinking much, I handed one over. A few days later, I was in her classroom for a parent-teacher meeting and spotted my face pinned to a mural the students had created. The title, "The Oldest Thing in My House." My daughter is starting middle school this September. We've decorated her locker, bought new uniforms, and even surprised her with a brand new backpack. But tonight, just before bed, we did something far more important to prepare her for this new chapter. I handed her a tube of toothpaste and asked her to squeeze it all out onto a plate. When she was done, I calmly asked her to put the toothpaste back into the tube. She looked at me, surprised, and started saying things like, "I can't," and "It'll never go back the way it was." I waited for her to finish, then gently said, "This plate of toothpaste is something you'll remember for the rest of your life. Your words are powerful. They carry the weight of life and death. As you enter middle school, you're going to see just how much impact your words can have. You'll have moments where you can use your words to hurt, belittle, and wound others. But you'll also have opportunities to use your words to heal, encourage, inspire, and show love. There will be times when you make mistakes. I've made 3 this week alone, where I used my words carelessly and hurt someone. But just like this toothpaste, once your words leave your mouth, you can't take them back. That's why it's so important to choose them wisely. When others are using their words to harm, be the one who chooses to guard yours. Each morning, decide that the words you speak will bring life. Make it your goal to be a source of kindness, gentleness, and compassion. Use your words to bring hope to a world that desperately needs it. I promise you will never regret choosing kindness. There lived a woman in a peaceful suburban neighborhood who was dealing with an uncommon situation. Her husband was prone to losing his cool under any circumstance, which sometimes led to intense arguments that left them both worn out and anxious. She could not stand to watch as these frequent outbursts harmed their relationship. She was desperate and made the decision to consult a well-known physician in the area who was also known for his sharp sense of humor. The physician, renowned for his non-traditional remedies, listened to her problems with patience. "Doctor, my husband's temper is driving us apart," the woman said. "I require assistance to handle it. How can I help?" With a cunning smile tugging at the corners of his lips, the doctor reclined in his chair. "My dear," he began, "I have a very special idea for you. When you see him lose it, swallow your ego and your irritation. Avoid getting into a fight and control your emotions. Just hold everything inside till he gets out of the room or settles down." The woman chose to attempt this unconventional advice, even if it perplexed her a little. After a span of 2 weeks, she came back to the physician's office with a renewed sense of calm and renewal. "Doctor," she cried out, "that was a really great idea. I took your advice and my hubby stopped losing it every time. I took a water swish. I continued to sway him and he immediately became peaceful. How does that come from a drink of water?" The physician couldn't help but laugh at her reply. With a knowing sparkle in his eyes, he leaned over and murmured, "My dear, the water itself does nothing. The secret is to keep your mouth shut." The woman sparkled as she understood the value of the doctor's advice. Their house had changed, not the water, but rather her newfound capacity to maintain composure and avoid conflict. She had learned that, on occasion, our own actions and our capacity to remain composed in the face of difficulty can be the most effective means of solving an issue. The woman continued to use the metaphor of swishing with water to control her emotions from that day on. Her husband started to have less temper tantrums, and their house started to feel more harmonic and tranquil. It was a lesson she had acquired from a doctor with an odd but highly successful remedy. The power of patience, self-control, and the capacity to respond to anger with calm and grace. A man and a woman had been married for more than 60 years. They had shared everything. They had kept no secrets from each other, except that the little old woman had a shoebox in the top of her closet that she had cautioned her husband never to open or ask her about. For all of these years, he had never thought about the box. But one day, the little old woman got very sick, and the doctor said she would not recover. In trying to sort out their affairs, the little old man took down the shoebox and took it to his wife's bedside. She agreed that it was time that he should know what was in the box. When he opened it, he found 2 crochet dolls and a stack of money totaling $95,000. He asked her about the contents. "When we were to be married," she said, "my grandmother told me the secret of a happy marriage was to never argue. She told me that if I ever got angry with you, I should just keep quiet and crochet a doll." The little old man was so moved. He had to fight back tears. Only 2 precious dolls were in the box. She had only been angry with him 2 times in all those years of living and loving. He almost burst with happiness. "Honey," he said, "that explains the doll. But what about all of this money? Where did it come from?" "Oh, that," she said. "That's the money I made from selling the dolls.